I'm doing this video today by special request of somebody who asked for a tutorial on this on Facebook. See, I'm listening to you guys. I listen to all your comments that you put down below here on YouTube. I listen to them on Facebook, and for whatever reason, this particular one just really struck me last night that I thought it would be really, really fun to play with, and so I dove right into it. And let me show you what we're going to work on. We're going to make little flat triangles. So this is what it looks like. We are going to make these what I consider a component, which is, this is flat peyote, and it is a triangle, double-sided here. Although it's the same on both sides. So the color in the center here, it looks very much like a herringbone stitch because it has those kind of V shapes, what I think of as the herringbone V. See how the beads kind of sit at an angle tilted towards each other? That's what I think of as the herringbone V. And a lot of times people will refer to this stitch here in the corners as a herringbone stitch. But in reality, what it is a peyote increase stitch. And so really this entire triangle is done with peyote. It's just that you're doing regular flat peyote along these sides, and when you come to the corners, you're doing an increase stitch, which is where you're forcing two beads in instead of a single bead, and that's what creates the actual corners here. So this particular one I did just with two different colors. It's easiest to learn how to make these triangles if you use a different color for your increase stitches in the corners. So we're going to start out that way, but in the future, once you kind of get comfortable with this corner idea, it doesn't have to be a line of demarcation here. You can actually make this part of the pattern of your triangle and use either the same color here or a third or fourth color, make all sorts of patterns, which is what I did here, which was I started a very simple pattern in the side of each triangle. And here is just a little hanger that I've added to this. Now I could turn this into earrings. We could join triangles and make an entire bracelet. You can join triangles all sorts of different ways. You can play with all sorts of placement. Let's see if I did these like this and added then one in here. So that's why I say it's a component for you to play with. And I have an idea for a very special bracelet that I'm going to make that I'll talk about at the end of this video. There will be a kit available for the special bracelet. So let me show you how we're going to get started on this. This does work with either cylinder beads or with seed beads. I prefer to use the cylinder beads because it gives a really nice sharp definition to the triangles. And here I was using size 11 delicas. In the demo piece that I'm going to make right here, I'm going to use size 10 delicas just because it's a little bit bigger and easier to see for you guys. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to make the dark color the outside color here, the main color on the outside, and then I'm going to use that chartreuse green for the inside color. So we're actually going to start with the inside color by picking up 3 of those beads. You're going to pass it down to the end of your thread. You want to leave enough thread that you can weave it back in later. So I usually leave about roughly a 4 or 5 inch tail back there. And then we're going to go from the bottom tail end up through all 3 of those beads again. And then that still won't turn it into a circle. So we're going to keep going around in a clockwise direction and pass through that very first bead yet again. Now I've got both my tail thread and my working thread coming out of different sides of the same bead. And I've got a circle of 3 beads right there. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to continue to work with that same inside color. And I'm picking up 2 beads in between each one of these first 3 that I added. So I'm picking up 2. I'm passing through the very next bead. I'm going to kind of want those beads to sit at an angle. So I'm kind of just, I worked with it a little bit. See how now the beads are at this kind of cattywampus angle to each other. So when I come back into that later, the beads are sitting the way that I want them to. You might have to kind of work with it a little bit to make that happen. I picked up another 2 beads. I'm passing through the next bead around the circle. Here, so look how these beads are sitting in this straight line. I want them to sit kind of cattywampus. So I'm taking my needle and I'm pulling that thread in between the 2 of them, which then makes them sit down in the positions I want them to be. And now I can tighten that thread down. And now I have one last hole to fill between these 2 from the first round, so I'm going to pick up my last 2 here and pass through the very next bead. Because this is the last bead of this round, I'm also going to have to do what's called a step up. And so I'm going to actually step up through the first bead of that next set of 2 that I added. So here we go. I'm going to use my needle, kind of come between, catch that thread so that I can make those guys sit the way I want them to. And now look what we've got here. So our original ring is right here, 1, 2, 3, and we've got 2 beads, cattywampus, coming out of each hole between those beads in the center. And my thread is coming out of the first bead of one of these sets of doubles that I added. So from here on out, what's going to happen is every time I come to those doubles, I'm going to be picking up 2 of that same color. So I'll be picking up 2 of the chartreuse. Then when I get to over here, I'm going to make a regular peyote stitch, and that's where now I'm going to then bring in the dark green. So let me show you what this looks like. We're now on row 3. So because we're at the corner where the doubles are, we're picking up our 2. We're passing through the very next bead, which is the second of those 2. Just like before, we want these 2 to continue to sit cattywampus. So I'll go grab that thread, which then makes it the bead fall into place. Now see how I've got a little bit of a down bead section right here. So I've got a hole right here before I get to the next double. That's where I'm going to do what I call a regular peyote stitch. So I'm picking up a dark green and passing through the first bead of the double. There we go. Popped that guy right in there. So now here I am at a double again, which means that I am picking up 2, passing through the very second bead of the double below. Let's see if we can get these guys to sit cattywampus the way we want them to. There we go. Now I've got a hole before I get to the next double bead, so I'm picking up a dark green, going into the double, the first bead of the double, picking up 2 for my double, going into the very second bead of that double. Catch that thread so I can make them sit the way I want them to. There it goes. Here I still have a hole. Now this is my last stitch of this row, and you'll notice that where before I only had 1 bead to go up, here my tower is taller because this is where my step up is going to be. So on that very last bead that you add on each row, you're going to have to do your step up, which means going through the top 2 beads instead of just the top bead. And there we go. So now we have a slightly larger triangle. Every time we add a row, you're going to be adding 2 more beads in between the doubles. Let me show you what I'm talking about. We'll do another round here. So here I'm at a double, so I'm picking up 2 of the delicas in the same color. Make those sit the way I want them to. Now, here I am. I've got a green. I've got a hole right here before I get to this center green. So this is where we're just basically doing regular peyote stitch here. And now I've got another hole right here, and I can attach this by going through the top bead of the double. I'm picking up 2 at the double, going through the second bead of that double. There we go. That one just popped in really beautifully. And now I'm adding my peyote stitches here. So 1, pass through the sticky outie, 2, pass through the top bead of the double. All right. Here we are at a double. We're picking up 2, pass through the second bead of the double. Now we're ready for some peyote stitches. So 1 and 2. And because this is my last bead of this round, this is where now I have to pass through the top 2 instead of just the top 1. You'll notice a lot of times people will put, until you get really comfortable with that, what you can do is put out, kind of separate out, you know that you're going to be using 6 of the doubles. So if you put those 6 out, and after you've finished with all 6 of your doubles, on that next side when you're finishing it off with your peyote stitch, that's where your step up is going to be. So if you need that mental reminder, that's a really good way to make that happen. I'll do one more round with you here. So let's see here. We're picking up 2 at the double. Now this time we're going to have, last time we had 2 peyote stitches, this time we're going to have 3. So I'm picking up 1, passing through the next sticky outie, picking up 1, passing through the next sticky outie, picking up 1, passing through the top bead of the double. Okay, so here's now my next tower here where I'm picking up a double, passing through the second bead of the double, making sure that sits the way I want it to. Now here we have 3 peyote stitches across. 1, 2, pass through the sticky outie, 3, pass through the sticky outie. Here I am adding my last set of doubles. So there's my 2. And that means that when I finish peyote my 3 across here, that's where my step up is going to be. Because now I know I had those 3 sets of doubles separated out, so now I know this is my last side. So I'm picking up 1, going through the sticky outie, picking up 2, going through the sticky outie, picking up 3. And this is where I'm going to go through the top 2 of the doubles. All right. So we're going to have you keep adding more rows as you go along here until you have a total of 6 of the beads of this inset color. So you want 6 across. And at that point, come on back and we'll show you what's up next. Okay, so I went ahead and beaded along with you, and now I have just finished doing my last row here, where now I have 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 beads across in this color inset section. And I've already gone ahead and done my step up, so my thread is coming out of the first of the 2 beads here at the double. So here's where you have a choice of how you're going to finish this off. And let me show you the difference here on these 2 samples. On this sample here, I did not put anything special in this corner. When I came to the corner, I went ahead and did 2 beads here at the corners, at 2 of the corners, just like normal. On this one, when I did that last row, I actually just put a single bead in between those doubles in all 3 of those locations. And if you look at these, you can kind of see where this has a slightly more rounded profile because of that single bead there. Here you retain a little bit more of the sharpness of a triangle. So it's just a personal preference which one you like. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and put the single bead in the corner on all of mine. So that means I'm going to do one more round as I go around and just put a single in each location. Now if I were going to decide not to do a single in each location, and if I want to add a little hanger up here on the top, I would go ahead and add that single on one corner to go ahead. That enables me to put this hanger in and attach it to that single seed bead. It's a really seamless way of doing it. And then just omit the single bead in the corner at the other 2 corners so you get that sharper edge. Okay? So, but what I'm going to do with this big triangle is I'm going to go ahead and put that single bead in the corners. So here what I would do instead of doing 2 for my double is I'm just going to pick up 1. and pass through the next bead. And then I would just go ahead and stitch along the long edge here like normal. Be watching for these caught threads. As a matter of fact, I was actually noticing on one of these particular pieces as I was finishing it off, do you see there's kind of a little dark spot right here? It's because I ended up with hooked thread right there, and by the time I saw it, I was already several rows past, and I decided not to go back and pull it out. So you do want to keep your eye out for any of those hooked threads. Because we've got lots of corners and angles on this particular piece, it's very easy to do. So anytime you kind of feel that thread come up a little shorter than you think it should be as you're pulling through, you want to take a look at it. Use your instincts. Anytime I think, oh, I'm sure it's fine, that's when it's not fine. You know how that goes. Okay, so we're coming to the corner. So remember that we're doing only a single on this particular piece. So I'm picking up a single and then passing through the second bead of the double. Then I will go along like normal with this color along the edge. These triangles are pretty quick to do, which is nice, and I think that they make a really big impact when you use them where you're using a lot of them. I love having a simple component that makes a lot of impact because you've got a lot of them, and this triangle just really begs for that. So here I am at the corner. I'm going to add my last single. There we go. Still need to finish off this last side with my regular peyote stitches so that the three sides are even. So what I'm going to do is, with my triangles, I am going to create a whole bunch of them with these little hangers, and I am going to turn them into a dangle bracelet. And so while this video covers the basic triangle shape, there will be a PDF project instruction sheet that will be available for a small charge, and it will include how to do the bracelet, how to do a whole bunch of different patterns in the triangles, a lot of different bead color combinations will be in there, and so that will be available for you once this video is released. So here I have finished this triangle, and now what I want to do is add this little loop of beads so that we can attach it to something. So in this case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up 7 beads. Let's see here, that was 6, this is 7. I'm coming out of that single, I picked up 7, and I'm just going to pass right back through the other side of that single. I do want to reinforce this a couple times, so I'm going to keep going around that circle, that loop of beads, a couple of times. So by reinforcing this time around, that will be my second pass of thread. Whoops, here we go. And then for extra insurance, I'm going to go through one more time and reinforce. You see that it doesn't really take any time at all to do this reinforcing, and it will make a big difference in the long-term survivability of your piece. So now that I've reinforced that twice, that means that there are 3 passes of thread through there. So that is nice and secure. And then I'm just going to weave this thread back in. I'm going to change directions a couple of times as I finish it off, and then just clip it off. I'll do the same thing with the tail thread, and this triangle will be ready to go. Just to show you the difference in size between so these were the size 11 delicas, and this one that I just did now is with the size 10 delicas, so you can kind of get the size differential between those two. So I hope that you have a really good time coming up with all sorts of color combinations for these triangles. They are really fun to do. And like I said, there is a PDF for a small charge that will have all sorts of designs that you can do within the triangle, and then how to turn all of this into a gorgeous, fun, flirty bracelet that will have all the charm dangles hanging off of it. I can't wait to finish it all up. Thank you so much for hanging out with me, and I will see you again. Happy beading.